Think back, just for a second, to the job you had maybe 5 years ago. Now, think about how much of your daily routine from back then has been completely upended. By new software, crazy economic shifts, and of course, AI. Well, welcome to this explainer of Anderson Romanik's powerful framework for future-proofing your career. We are living in an environment where literally everything is changing all at once. Navigating this kind of landscape requires a totally new toolkit, specifically mastering what we'll call the 5 forms of capital. And today, we're going to break down exactly how you build it.
So instead of just chasing another fancy job title, this document lays out a really comprehensive 10-year blueprint for becoming an exceptionally valuable professional. Job titles are surprisingly fragile, right? I mean, a social media manager or a data analyst in 2010 did a vastly different job than one does today. Whole industries can pivot overnight. The central idea here isn't to become indispensable by knowing absolutely everything. It's about becoming exceptional by learning faster than circumstances change, thinking clearly, and consistently turning ideas into real results, regardless of what's printed on your business card.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the future of work, average versus exceptional, the 5 forms of capital, the professional equation, and finally, the 10-year roadmap.
All right, part 1, the future of work.
The source material highlights a pretty concerning metric from the World Economic Forum. Get this, they estimate that a staggering 39% of workers' existing skill sets could be completely transformed or become entirely outdated by 2030. Just let that sink in for a second. Almost 4 out of every 10 skills you rely on right now to pay your bills might be totally obsolete in just a few short years. Ask yourself, what software platforms or manual processes were you relying on just a half-decade ago that are basically ancient history today? This incredibly rapid expiration date on hard skills is exactly why your ultimate competitive advantage is your adaptability, your resilience, and your raw capacity for continuous learning.
Moving right along to Section 2, average versus exceptional.
Consider the mindset of your average professional. They passively wait around for explicit instructions. You know the type. They arrive at work, open their inbox, and basically ask, okay, what do you want me to do today? Contrast that with the exceptional professional. They proactively identify hidden opportunities before they're even assigned. An average professional focuses on merely checking boxes on a daily task list, totally disconnected from the big picture. But the exceptional one, they understand exactly why that specific task matters to the business's bottom line.
And this brings us to a really fascinating shift in ego. Average workers constantly compete for attention. They want recognition above everything else. In a modern office, this is that person who is constantly CCing the boss on every single minor email thread, right? Just to prove they're working. Exceptional professionals, on the other hand, focus strictly on creating value. They don't worry about the spotlight because they know that lifting the entire team's output inherently builds a rock-solid reputation. Where the average worker just sees siloed, competing departments, the exceptional professional sees interconnected systems working toward one shared goal.
But here's the most crucial difference for our modern landscape. The average worker is terrified of AI disruption. They read the headlines and see technology as a direct threat to their livelihood. But the exceptional professional, they view AI as an incredibly eager, highly capable intern. They actually learn how to leverage it. They figure out how to offload all that busy work and automate routine tasks so they can focus entirely on high-level strategy and human relationships. They augment their own capabilities to become exponentially more efficient, not obsolete.
Okay, Section 3, the 5 forms of capital.
To survive career disruption, you can't just build a flat resume. You have to systematically build these 5 interconnected assets over your lifetime. Let's really dig into this because this is the absolute anchor of the entire framework. First up is knowledge capital. This is what you know. It's your understanding of industry trends and theoretical concepts. But knowledge alone isn't enough. So that brings us to the second, skill capital, what you can actually execute. If knowledge is understanding how a sales funnel works, skill is actually pitching the client and closing the deal. Third is relationship capital. Who trusts you? This is the network of people who will gladly take your call or vouch for your work because they know your track record. Fourth is reputation capital, which is what people consistently expect from you. It's your personal brand before you even enter the room. And finally, the fifth, character capital.
Now, the crucial point here is the character capital isn't just some ethical nice-to-have. It is the absolute foundation that holds the other 4 forms of capital together. The source defines it simply as who you are when nobody is watching. Think about it. Your personal brand and reputation, sure, they might get you the interview. Your skills and knowledge can definitely get the job done day to day, but it is your character that dictates whether people will truly trust you when the stakes are incredibly high, when the pressure is really on, or when the financial incentives suddenly change.
Because, as the source material starkly reminds us, you can be brilliant at business strategy, a total master of finance, and incredibly charismatic in a boardroom, but competence without character is dangerous. If you lack integrity, your relationships will eventually crumble, your reputation will sour permanently, and all that knowledge and skill capital you worked so hard to build up, it'll be rendered completely useless. The lesson here is crystal clear. Never ever compromise your character capital for a quick win.
Which naturally leads us to Section 4, the professional equation.
The author uses a mathematical formula here, and you really need to notice that these traits are connected by multiplication signs, not addition signs. So it's character times learning times communication times judgment times execution times adaptability. Why does multiplication matter so much? Because in multiplication, if any single element approaches 0, your entire professional system is dragged down to 0. Think about the brilliant jerk archetype we've all encountered at work. This person might be a 10 out of 10 in execution and learning, but if their communication and character are a 0, their overall effectiveness completely plummets. They end up dragging the whole team down. You literally cannot ignore any single variable in this equation.
And this systemic way of thinking applies to how you manage your life outside the office too. Because life and work have to be optimized together, you're warned against sacrificing permanent assets for temporary achievements. The modern professional is constantly pressured to make these bad trades. But let's put it into perspective. A missed promotion? That can be recovered. A failed project? You can try again next quarter. But a destroyed marriage, irreversibly damaged health, or a compromised character? Those are incredibly hard, if not impossible, to recover. Optimize for sustainable equilibrium over the span of years, not perfect balance every single exhausting day.
Finally, let's bring it all together in Section 5, the 10-year roadmap.
This roadmap strategically scales your growth. I want you to ask yourself right now, where do you currently sit on this timeline? Stage 1 is your foundation in the first 12 months, building basic emotional intelligence, AI literacy, and core communication. Stage 2, over the next 2 years, focuses on professional excellence, where you become known for pure reliability. By years 3 to 5, business mastery. You stop thinking like a narrow specialist and start thinking like a general manager. Years 5 to 7 push you into leadership, where the fundamental question flips from how do I perform to how do I make the organization perform. And finally, by year 10, your focus shifts entirely to leaving a legacy, mentoring others, and multiplying your value through the amazing teams you build.
To actually sustain this incredible 10-year journey, you've got to build a continuous professional flywheel. It starts with your mindset, what you fundamentally believe. It flows right into your values, what matters most to you. Then it cascades down to goals, strategy, skills, and finally, execution, what you're actually doing on a daily basis. But why is it a loop? Because if your execution fails, well, that failure feeds right back into your reflection, which adjusts your strategy, which requires you to learn new skills. You repeat this loop forever. The exceptional professional is never done learning. They are constantly compounding those 5 forms of capital.
To wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a pretty profound challenge from the source material to assess your current trajectory. Imagine you are 66 years old, looking back at the last decade of your professional life. Write a letter from that future version of you to your present self. What lasting value did you create? Who became better simply because of your influence? And most importantly, what kind of successful person did your character allow you to become? Think on that and start building your capital today.